everyone. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about just some tips and tricks just, before the season starts. And so thinking about just like, preparedness for the season and thinking about just like things that you want to do to make sure that you are successful. And so one of those things I think that is important is that when you find out your partner, right, when you figure out who your partner is and and you finally sat down, I think you both need to obviously come up with a thing that you both feel like, you both can talk about. Obviously, that's super important. And I think that the 2A needs to really hear the 1A, right? And I think that's super important. So I think that, like, usually we think, like, oh, the AF, that's the 2A, the neg, that's the 2A. And that's very rigid, very reductive understanding of how debate should work, right? Because debate's a team activity. Policy debate's definitely a team activity. And so it requires both partners to win the debate. And so that's what I mean by, like, you should definitely take input from your partner, because your partner is definitely going to be the one standing up in the 1AR extending your AF, right? And so thinking about that is super important. And so also not just leaving that type of communication primarily at constructing the affirmative, right? It's like, okay, well, you've constructed the AF, and it's like, okay, well, you've talked to the neg, and, like, you both agreed on some neg strats that you want to run, right? It's about practice, right? It's about discipline, over, just your desire to, even want to just win everything, right? It's like, yes, you might want to win everything, but it's about being disciplined and taking the small steps and doing the hard work to get there, right? You don't just wake up one night and you're amazing, right? I didn't just wake up one day and become, a quarterfinalist in the NDT, right? I practice a lot. I had many conversations with my partner, and that's important. And it's like, not only do you need to have conversations, you need to have debates against your partner, right? Your partner is the 2N. Let's say you're the 2A. You be AF, they be neg, right? Let them try and come up with a strategy against your AF, right? And you come up with a strategy against their negative strategy. It's like, that is what is required from, really, really, really good teams, is that they've thought out every avenue of what their AF looks like, right? They know their AF front and back, not just the 1A, but the 2A, not just the 2A, but the 1A, right? It's like both know their AF front and back, so that when the 1AC cross X happens on the first round, the 2A is not jumping in to explain something so that the judge feels a little bit more, sure about the argument. They are allowing the 1A to take a stance and be like, well, the 1A's got it, I'm going to prep, right? And you see how those things ultimately trade off. Well, you can tell yourself now, hey, it's okay. 1A is like, all right, it's okay. 2A, you just learned the AF, I'll learn the neg. But then when it becomes cross X time, you will lose speaker points, right? You as a team will not look as strong, as coherent, as synthesized together, because the 2A is jumping in for you, right? Or it's like, let's say you've upgraded that a level, and let's say you kick your partner in the toe now, when you need an answer to a question. And it's like, okay, or you message them on the Discord. It's like, yeah, you successfully hidden the fact that you need them to respond to you, but the fact that they are responding and you're not responding after you read the 1AC says everything to the judge, right? It says all that they need to know is that you are not going to be the one answering those questions, right? And that they are going to be the ones answering those questions. And even if it's a question about race, unless it's a question directly about that person in the room, that person should also answer. If the 1A is, non-black, and there's a question asked about blackness, the 1A should not defer to the black person because that black person is there and somehow has some, supremacy rights over the topic of blackness, but rather they should understand and interrogate their own relationship to blackness and be able to articulate that response, because that's required of them in order to read that AF in the first place, right? And so those are some sort of goals that you really want to set for yourself coming in, is that you want to have many disagreements. You want to go through the ins and outs. You want to feel like the AF from different angles so that it doesn't just become one thing, right? And then you want to make sure you set some goals for yourself, right? Not some goals that are, okay, well, I want to win everything. It's like everyone, to some degree, lesser, some, some more, want to win something, right? They want to be, rewarded for their hard labor in the activity, and that's okay. And that's just an everyday thing. But you cannot look at yourself and be like, because I want to win, that makes me special, right? At the end of the day, you might not win. right? And so being okay with the fact that you might not win is super important when you get into those, partnerships, because you want to be able to try for your partner even when you're losing, right? Even when you're not winning, you still want to show up for your partner. You don't want to be like, well, it's your fault, right? No, it's my fault, right? Like you don't want to, place blame. It's a team sport, it's a team activity. So both of you contributed in some shape, form, or fashion to you losing and or winning the debate. So if you win, you both take credit. If you lose, you both take credit, right? It's about accountability, and it's about being able to, set, some good guidelines about how you want the season to play out, and some sort of, expectations that you have of your partner. And that partner needs to let you know whether or not you're able to meet those expectations, right? Because if you can't meet those expectations, then you don't need to lie to your partner and say, well, you can. Yeah, I want to go to NDT. And then, NDT comes around and you're like, oh, I'm trying to go to, the spring fling bling, And so it's like, okay, well, that was, that wasn't in good faith, right? And so you don't want to be in good faith here, to your debate partner. You always want to be in constant communication with them, and being able to, know both the negative and the affirmative arguments like the back of your hand will not only make it seem like you both know exactly what you're talking about, but it'll strike, fear in the opponents, because debate is just a test of, do you know what you're talking about, to some degree, right? Like, yeah, the beginning of the debate's about presentation, it's about performance, it's about persuasion. The whole debate's about persuasion, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's really about, how have you won the debate through utilizing, effective and efficient methods that, convince the judge that you are a team, that you deserve to win this debate, that you are the ones who are the better team, right? Who did the better debate, right? And so thinking about that is like, okay, well, if I think about it in that way, then it allows me to, sort of really, function, and I'm able to, just do what I need to do in order to win the debate. And so if you don't do those things, ultimately it will become evident that you and your partner are not on the same page. And that will create tension in the room, and everyone will feel it, right? Everyone feels that tension. Everyone, right? Even if it's the slightest thing. It's like, so you want to kind of be on the same page. It's okay to have hiccups, right? Like, you'll have a hiccup, you'll be upset with your partner, you won't get along, you won't like the argument they made. They will probably, end up making an argument that the judge feels like is the quintessential argument that lost you all the debate. And even in those moments, you should still chop it up and be like, that's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I got you. We got this. Words of affirmation are super important in those moments. And so being able to start off the debate season with a sort of, on the same page, while also being true to the goals that you want to accomplish, is super important when beginning the year. Thank you.